My name is Ethan Walker, and if you had told me last year that I'd be sitting here, trying to explain what it feels like to die, I would have rolled my eyes and walked away. Death wasn't something I ever thought about. Why would I? I was just a regular 17-year-old, more concerned about school, my friends, and whatever was happening on my phone than anything remotely serious. God? Eternity? Those were just words people threw around in church, something I sat through for my mom's sake but never really paid attention to. Then, one ordinary Monday morning, I woke up, grabbed my phone, and scrolled for a while, just like I always did. It was 6:45 a.m., and my mom was already yelling from downstairs. "Ethan, you're gonna be late again." I groaned, pulling my blanket over my head. 5 more minutes. Just 5. My phone buzzed, messages from my best friend, Chris. "Dude, lunch is gonna be wild today. You won't believe what I just found out." I smirked, quickly typing back. "If it's about Mr. Callahan and that substitute teacher, I already know." Another buzz. "Nope. Way worse. Tell you at school." I tossed my phone on the nightstand, finally dragging myself out of bed. Another school day. Another predictable morning. Nothing felt different. I threw on a hoodie and jeans, grabbed my backpack, and rushed downstairs. Mom was in the kitchen, flipping pancakes while talking on the phone, probably with Aunt Lisa. She waved me over without breaking conversation, setting a plate in front of me. "You need to eat more, Ethan," she sighed. "You can't live on energy drinks and granola bars." I grinned, stuffing a pancake into my mouth. "I'm fine, Mom. Gotta go." She gave me the mom look, but I was already heading for the door. The morning was crisp, the kind that hinted winter was coming soon. I barely noticed. My mind was already somewhere else, probably on whatever gossip Chris was dying to share. I didn't know it then, but this would be the last normal morning of my life. Because a few hours later, I would be dead. It was just another Monday. Classes dragged on like they always did. The only thing keeping me sane was waiting for lunch, 45 minutes of freedom from lectures, quizzes, and teachers acting like whatever they were saying was life-changing. I sat through AP History, barely paying attention while Chris doodled something on his notebook. When the bell finally rang, we bolted out the door, heading toward the cafeteria. Lunch was loud, packed with students talking over each other, trading gossip, shoving fries onto their trays. Chris had been hyping up some scandal all morning, but by the time we sat down, I could barely focus. My mind was somewhere else, scrolling through messages, half listening to him ramble about some junior caught sneaking into the teacher's lounge. I laughed when he did, not because I really cared, but because that's what you do, you go through the motions. Looking back, I barely remember what we talked about. The memory is hazy, like a dream you can't quite hold on to. What I do remember is after lunch. The moment everything spiraled. I was at my locker, shoving my books inside when I heard someone call my name. "Ethan. You coming?" I turned. It was Jason, a guy from my math class. He was waving me over, motioning toward the exit. A group of us usually walked outside after lunch, just to kill time before our next class. "Yeah, hold on." I slammed my locker shut and jogged to catch up. We were halfway across the parking lot, the fall air crisp against my face. I don't know why, but for the briefest moment, I had this weird feeling, a tightness in my chest, like something was off. I shook it off, blaming it on the cold. Then I heard it. Screeching tires. A sharp, high-pitched scream. I turned my head just in time to see the truck. A massive Ford F-250, barreling toward me at full speed. There was no time to react. No time to run. No time to do anything. Impact. The force ripped through me, like being hit by a wrecking ball. My feet left the ground. Pain exploded across my body, white-hot, unbearable. My ribs cracked, the air torn from my lungs. The world spun. There was a loud crunch, metal against metal, bones against pavement. Then, nothing. Silence. For a split second, I thought time had stopped. The world around me froze. No pain. No breath. Just stillness. Then I opened my eyes. And I saw myself. I wasn't on the pavement. I was above it. Floating. Weightless. Looking down at my own body, twisted at an unnatural angle, blood pooling beneath my head. Chris was there, screaming my name, shaking me. People were running. Someone was calling 911. But I wasn't there anymore. I tried to move, tried to reach out, to tell them I was fine, that I was right there. But my hand passed through Chris like smoke. And then, I felt it. Something pulling me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't soft. It was strong, unrelenting. I was being dragged, yanked from the world I knew, towards something unseen. Panic seized me. I fought, but there was no resisting. Because I knew. I was dead. But I was still there, or at least, something of me was. I hovered above the pavement, staring at the twisted, lifeless body that had once been mine. My arms were bent at impossible angles, blood pooling beneath my head. Chris was kneeling beside me, his hands shaking as he screamed my name. I tried to answer. I'm right here. But my voice didn't come. My mouth didn't move. And then, the pull. At first, it was subtle, like an invisible hand tugging at me. Then it grew stronger. Unrelenting. Like something had locked onto me and was dragging me away. No, asterisk, I fought, kicking, struggling, but there was nothing to hold on to. No ground. No walls. Just an endless, invisible force pulling me from everything I knew. I looked down one last time. The scene blurred, Chris crying, teachers rushing over, sirens in the distance. It was all fading. And then, I was somewhere else. Everything around me went dark. Thick, suffocating. It wasn't the absence of light, it was something worse. A presence. A living void. I felt cold, but not like stepping outside on a winter morning. This was deeper, heavier, like the warmth inside me was being ripped away. Whispers. All around me. Low, slithering, in a language I couldn't understand but instinctively feared. They laughed, mocking, circling. I wasn't alone. I couldn't see them, but I could feel them. Watching. Waiting. And then, a voice, deep, ancient, filled with power. Stop. Everything froze. The darkness. The whispers. The pull. And then, light. Not just light, a force. It wasn't warm or soft like sunlight. It was alive, cutting through the blackness like fire through paper. It swallowed the darkness, pushing it back, revealing a figure standing in the center of it all. I knew who he was before he even spoke. Jesus. The moment I saw him, my entire being collapsed. It wasn't just my body, I didn't even have a body anymore. But my soul, my very existence, shook beneath his presence. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. But there was nowhere to go. His eyes, God, his eyes. They weren't just looking at me, they were looking through me. Every thought I had ever had, every action, every secret, every sin, I felt them being pulled out, laid bare, exposed in a way that was more terrifying than the darkness I had just escaped. I was nothing before him. Nothing. Then, he spoke. "Ethan, do you know why you are here?" His voice was not of this world. It wasn't sound, it was power. It filled everything, vibrated inside me, pressing into every fiber of what I was. I tried to answer, but no words came. He didn't wait. With a single movement of his hand, I saw it, my entire life. Every choice. Every moment. Every lie, every selfish action, every time I had ignored what was right. I saw my pride, the times I chose myself over others. The moments I hurt people, the lies I told, the times I ignored someone in need. I felt the pain I had caused, not just my own, but theirs. This wasn't punishment. It wasn't cruelty. It was truth. And as I stood there, watching my own sins unfold before me, I realized the most terrifying thing of all. I had never really known him. The visions didn't stop. They shifted. I wasn't just watching my life anymore, I was watching the world. And what I saw sent ice through my soul. Flames. Darkness swallowing the earth. People screaming, running, but there was nowhere to go. The sky cracked open, fire and smoke rising as entire cities collapsed into chaos. It wasn't like the disasters you see on TV, this was different. It felt final. I turned to Jesus, my voice shaking. "What is this?" His eyes, filled with sorrow, never left mine. "This is what is coming." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. I wasn't allowed to. People were walking straight into the darkness, some oblivious, some laughing, some too consumed by their own lives to realize what was happening. They didn't see the horror waiting for them. They didn't care. I watched as a man clutched his money, his greed like chains wrapped around him, pulling him deeper. A woman scrolled through her phone, ignoring the cries of her own child. A group of people sat in a church, singing, praying, smiling, but their eyes were empty, their faith a hollow routine. Then, I saw something worse. The pit. A gaping, endless void opened beneath them, and one by one, they fell. Some fought, some screamed, but it didn't matter. They had already chosen. I stood beside Jesus, my chest tightening as I watched the horror unfold. The world, our world, was unraveling before my eyes. Cities crumbled, the sky burned red, and people ran, screaming, begging for help that would never come. They had waited too long. The worst part wasn't the destruction. It was the people. I saw them walking, blind, straight into the abyss. Some laughed, mocking the warnings. Others ignored them, too busy with their own lives to notice the darkness swallowing them whole. And then, I saw them. Figures moving through the chaos, twisted, inhuman, their bodies shifting like smoke. Their eyes glowed, deep, empty pools of red hunger. Demons. They whispered in people's ears, their voices dripping with lies. They fed them false promises, luring them deeper. Some people tried to resist, their faces twisted in panic, but it was too late. The darkness had already claimed them. I felt a cold terror crawl through me. Jesus, stop this. They don't know what's happening. His face was heavy with sorrow. They chose this. No, they didn't. They don't understand. Before I could finish, a figure stepped forward from the shadows. Taller than the rest. Stronger. Its presence made the others shrink back in fear. The darkness lingered, even though the demons had pulled back. They hadn't disappeared completely. They were waiting, watching from the edges, just beyond the circle of light where Jesus stood. I could still hear their whispers, slithering through the air. Not yet, but soon. You think he'll keep you forever? You were always one of us. I clenched my fists, my chest tightening with an unbearable weight. I felt them, not just around me but inside me. Like something I had let in long ago was still there, refusing to leave. I turned to Jesus, desperate. Why? Why are they still here? Why do they know me? His face held sorrow, but there was something deeper, truth. Because every time you chose sin, they gained power over you. Every time you ignored me, they grew closer. His words hit like thunder, reverberating through my soul. I had invited them in. Not consciously, not with some grand, intentional rebellion. But through the small choices, the little moments where I chose myself over him. Every lie. Every selfish action. Every time I had ignored that voice inside telling me this isn't right. They had been watching, taking hold, waiting for the moment I was theirs. I felt sick. My knees trembled, my hands shook. I didn't know. Jesus looked at me with a sadness that made my chest ache. Many don't. He lifted his hand, and suddenly, the darkness peeled away. Before us stood something immense, stretching endlessly in both directions. It radiated light, warm, golden, alive. The gates of heaven. The moment I saw them, something inside me yearned. It wasn't just a place. It was home. Every part of me felt like it was being pulled toward it, like a magnet, like I belonged there. But as I stepped forward, my breath caught. I stood frozen, caught between the brilliance of heaven's gates and the suffocating darkness that stretched beyond them. The wailing, God, the wailing, it echoed in my soul, shaking me to my core. These weren't just voices. They were people. Real souls. I turned to Jesus, my throat dry. Why are they there? His eyes, filled with both sorrow and justice, locked onto mine. Because they never truly knew me. I wanted to argue, to say it wasn't fair. Some of these people had gone to church, said prayers, done good things. How could they be on the other side? Jesus raised his hand, and before us appeared a massive book, floating in the air, its pages glowing with heavenly fire. I knew what it was before he even spoke. The Book of Life. Names glowed on the pages, millions of them, shining like embers in the wind. Some I recognized, family, people from my church, even strangers I had only met once. Each name carried weight, a presence, as if their very souls were embedded in those words. But then, I saw the gaps. Empty spaces where names should have been. People I thought would be there, people who had claimed to know Jesus, were missing. My breath hitched. Why are there empty spaces? Jesus turned to me, his voice steady. Because they called my name, but they never gave me their hearts. I felt my knees weaken. But they believed in you. His expression didn't change. Belief is not enough. Even the demons believe. My mind reeled. I remembered sermons, youth group messages about grace and faith, about salvation. Had I misunderstood it all? Then, my stomach dropped. Some names weren't just missing. They were fading. Glowing letters dissolving, one by one, disappearing into nothingness. I took a shaky step forward. They were saved. Why are their names disappearing? Jesus exhaled, the sorrow in his eyes unbearable. Because they turned away. A cold terror gripped me. Can they come back? He nodded slowly. As long as they have breath, they have a chance. But soon, the time will end. I swallowed hard, staring at the empty spaces in the book. I couldn't take my eyes off the fading names. The realization crushed me like a weight I couldn't bear. These weren't just names on a page. They were souls. People who had once known the truth but had walked away. I turned to Jesus, my voice barely a whisper. How many think they're saved, but aren't? His silence was an answer in itself. Before I could speak again, the air around us shifted. A presence, powerful, overwhelming, filled the space. A figure stepped forward, radiating a light so intense that the ground beneath us trembled. An angel. His face was unreadable, his voice like rolling thunder. The time is near. The judgment is coming. Many will be lost. A chill ran through me. But people don't know. If they understood what was coming, they'd change. The angel's gaze didn't waver. They mock the warnings. They laugh at the truth. They choose darkness over light. His words burned through me like fire. I thought of my friends, my family, people I had passed in the hallways at school, strangers I had seen in coffee shops, at the mall, in church, so many people just living their lives, unaware of what was waiting for them. I clenched my fists, desperation rising in my chest. Then tell them. Show them what I've seen. Make them understand. The angel's expression didn't change. They have already been told. I shook my head. No, not like this. If they could see it, if they could hear it. Jesus stepped forward then, placing a hand on my shoulder. That is why I am sending you back. The words stopped me cold. Back? I looked at him, my mind racing. I had seen the horrors of the pit, the lost souls, the truth in the book of life. And now he wanted me to go back. Jesus held my gaze, his voice steady but filled with urgency. Tell them, Ethan. Warn them. Because soon, the door will close. The words sent shivers down my spine. I opened my mouth to protest, to beg for more time, more answers. But before I could speak, the light around me collapsed. And suddenly, I was falling. Jesus is God. The words ripped from my throat, raw and desperate, filling the sterile air around me. My eyes flew open, pupils blown wide as I gasped for breath. My chest heaved, fire searing through my lungs, like I had been suffocating and was only now able to breathe. Bright, blinding lights stabbed into my vision. The ceiling above me was white, the air thick with the overpowering scent of antiseptic. I could hear the rapid beep 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 of machines, the shuffling of feet, voices shouting. He's back. We have a pulse. I felt hands on my arms, pressing me down. My body ached, no, it screamed. Pain radiated through my ribs, my skull, every nerve in my body like I had been thrown into a war and barely crawled out alive. Ethan. Stay still, a nurse said, her voice shaking. I tried to move, to sit up, to do anything, but my limbs felt alien, like they didn't belong to me anymore. The weight of my own body was unbearable, like I had been ripped from another reality and shoved back into this fragile shell. A doctor leaned over me, his face pale. You flatlined for 6 minutes. 6 minutes? No. No. It had been longer. I had stood before Jesus. I had seen heaven. I had seen hell. I had seen the truth. The reality of it hit me like a sledgehammer. My body trembled, my mind racing to process all of it, the book of life, the angel's warning, the fading names, the demons whispering in the dark. The world around me felt wrong, distant, as if I was only half here, as if part of me was still standing before eternity itself. A sob broke from my throat. You don't understand. I was gone. I saw him. Jesus is real. He's real. The nurse shot a look at the doctor, her hands still firm on my shoulders. He's in shock. They didn't get it. They couldn't. I wasn't in shock. I wasn't confused. I had died. And I had come back with a warning. I tried to speak, to tell them everything, but the weight of what I had seen was too much. My body was back, but my soul felt split in two, still tethered to the world I had glimpsed beyond. Tears burned down my cheeks. I grabbed the nurse's wrist with trembling fingers, my voice barely a whisper now. You have to listen. Time is running out. I had seen the truth, and there was no going back. The world around me felt different now, like a thin veil had been torn away, revealing the war beneath it. I saw it everywhere, in conversations, in the hollow eyes of people walking past, in the way they obsessed over things that didn't matter. They were living their lives as if they had all the time in the world. But I knew better. I had been sent back for a reason. At first, I thought I could just slip back into normal life, blend in, keep what I had seen to myself. But the moment I tried, something inside me screamed. The weight of what I knew was too much. I couldn't just forget. I couldn't ignore it. Jesus had looked me in the eyes and said, "Tell them." And I would. I started with my family. Mom sat across from me at the kitchen table, clutching her coffee cup so tightly her knuckles went white. "Ethan, you were in a coma. Maybe this was just..." I shook my head. No. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a hallucination. I was there. I stood before Jesus, Mom. He showed me everything. Her eyes filled with tears. "I believe you." She exhaled shakily. "What do we do?" "We get ready." Dad was silent, staring at his folded hands. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. "I haven't been to church in years." "It's not just about church, Dad." I leaned forward. "It's about knowing him. Really knowing him. Not just going through the motions." That night, my father prayed for the first time in decades. But it wasn't just my family. I told my friends, my classmates, anyone who would listen. Some laughed. Some nodded politely and changed the subject. But some listened. The more I spoke, the more the enemy fought back. It started with dreams. Every night, I would close my eyes, and the darkness would come. Those same demons, waiting, whispering, mocking. They told me I was wasting my time, that no one cared, that soon, would be theirs again. I woke up gasping for air, my skin ice cold, the shadows in my room feeling too thick, too alive. Then came the paralysis. One night, I woke up and couldn't move. I felt it, something standing in the corner of my room, watching. The air was heavy, suffocating. My heart pounded as a voice, low and distorted, slithered into my mind. "Stop speaking. Or we will silence you." A chill ran through me, but something rose up inside me. I forced my lips to move. "In the name of Jesus, leave." Instantly, the presence vanished. The room felt lighter. I could breathe again. That's when I understood, this was war. Fear tried to stop me, but it only made me louder. I spoke at school, at church, online. I shared my story with anyone willing to listen. Some people mocked me, called me crazy. But others believed. One night, I got a message from a woman I didn't know. "I watched your testimony. I haven't prayed in 20 years, but after hearing what you saw, I fell to my knees. Thank you." Another came a week later. "Ethan, my husband, and I have been going through the motions for so long. We thought we were saved, but we were just religious. Your words shook us. We rededicated our lives to Jesus tonight." I wept when I read that one. Because I realized, this is why I was sent back. I could feel it, something in the air. Time is running out. The world is blind, lost in its distractions, in its endless hunger for more. But I saw what happens when the door closes. I saw what waits for those who ignore the warnings. People think they have time. They don't. I don't know when. I don't know how much longer. But I do know this, Jesus is calling. And you have to choose before it's too late. So, if you're reading this, if you're hearing these words, listen. I died. I saw heaven. I saw hell. I stood before the King of Kings. And now, I am telling you. Jesus is real. The time is near. And you must turn to him before the door closes forever. I never thought I would die, let alone return with a message that could change lives. But I did. And now, I can't stay silent. When I stood before Jesus, I wasn't just shown my life, I was shown the truth. I felt the weight of every choice, every sin, every moment I ignored him. And yet, in his eyes, I saw something even greater than my failures. I saw love. A love so deep, so overwhelming, that it shattered every excuse, every doubt I ever had. He didn't condemn me, he called me back. Since returning, my world has changed. I no longer see life the same way. The things I once chased, status, entertainment, approval, feel meaningless compared to eternity. I was given a second chance, but not everyone will get one. That's why I'm asking you, where do you stand with God? If today was your last day, would you be ready? I want you to think about that. Really think about it. If you had seen what I saw, how would it change you? If my story has touched you, leave a prayer in the comments. I will pray for you, that you may come closer to God, just as I was called back to him.